Howdy everyone, welcome back to Documenting Azeroth. Today, we're taking a look at a lush, coastal, temperate rainforest in southern Kalimdor, Feralas. This one is a personal favorite of mine, so I am very excited to explore it. We'll start with some basic info about the region and what surrounds it. Then we'll dig into the zone, taking a look at the natives, towns, geography, dig into the story a little bit, and look at any other points of interest along the way. Feralas is a coastal, temperate rainforest located in southern Kalimdor. It is an area contested by both the Horde and Alliance, the two major factions on Azeroth. On the Alliance side, the population is mainly Night Elves, but on the Horde side, it is mainly Tauren. There are other hostile factions in the region, such as Ogres, Harpies, Yetis, and Gnolls, mostly independent but sometimes working together. On the western border of Feralas is the Veiled Sea, with a long shoreline and Night Elf fortifications. There are two regions that exist over impassable borders, those being the plains of Mulgore, land of the Tauren, to the north, and the deserts of Silithus to the south. The last two zones that border Feralas are the two paths into it. To the north, we have the dry, dying wastelands of Desolus, and to the east, we have the flooded canyon Thousand Needles. For our exploration of Feralas, we'll start in the valley leading from Desolus, and we'll slowly follow the main road through Feralas, ending up in Thousand Needles by the end, taking a look at everything along the way. So let's get started on our journey from Desolus. We start in a dry, dead valley as we cross the border, which quickly opens into a lush forest. Scattered about are owls, deers, wandering treants, and other small critters. Traveling down the road, it splits pretty quickly off to our first point of interest, the Horde camp of Camp Ataya. It is often under attack by some of the more aggressive locals, such as Gnolls and Ogres, but it's only a smaller outpost far into the Alliance-dominated side of Feralas, so there aren't many troops to help defend it. Directly to the north of Camp Ataya are the elven ruins of Ravenwind. It's now overrun with Harpies, but we can make out some information about the long-gone Highborn. The various sections of these ruins are surrounded by columns, holding up entablatures, both curved and straight. Throughout our exploration of this zone, we're going to see these kinds of ruins time and time again. These ruins in particular, if you look at how the columns are set up, they may have been borders for what were once districts, with some clear archways connecting some of them together. There are also some buildings and towers throughout the ruins that are still holding up to the test of time. But today, Harpies own these ruins. Efforts have been made by both the local Horde and Alliance to recover some relics and clear some of the Harpies out, but so far they're planted pretty deep and no success has been made. From here, we'll head directly south through the forest, crossing over some giants that are fighting and stuff, and we end up at the tallest mountains in Feralas, the Twin Colossals. These are two mountains with flat tops some think may have been massive trees long ago in history, but have since eroded away to just become part of the landscape, but there's no clear evidence to indicate this today. The northern of the two colossals has a pond on the top that spills water over the side, leading to another pond at the base and into a river system that leads north. A friendly night elf is fishing at this pond, so it's very likely there are fish to be caught up here. Let's follow this little waterfall down and start following the river to the north. The river runs along the road and eventually terminates into Jadamir Lake. Once we get to the lake, if we head directly east, we reach the small Alliance settlement of Dreamer's Rest. It's nestled into some more highborn ruins that border the lake. In the middle of the lake sits a large portal to the Emerald Dream. These dragons are hostile around here though, so take care if you're trying to get close. In the past, a massive dragon used to guard this portal, but today it's only smaller dragons guarding it. The area surrounding this island is lush with more forest and large branches and roots, but we can continue our exploration south down the road. The road running south leads between the Twin Colossals before ascending and twisting through some hills, and as we pass over the last hill, we see the massive Feathermoon Stronghold to the west, which will be our next stop. This is a huge Night Elf fortification with tons of troop activity, vendors. It's a major hub and port. Throughout the stronghold, you can see troop activity, you can see Night Elves in Worgen training, mustering, preparing, you can see glaive throwers lined up ready to attack. In the town square, in a Night Elf stronghold kind of sense, we have a number of Night Elves and other members of the Alliance here to trade, and further into the fort, we see patrolling hippogriffs, colossal towers, and other defensive structures, a moonwell. This fortress is very prepared to fight off any invasion. which is precisely what happened to the previous iteration of this stronghold, which we can find across the bay on Sardor Island. Crossing over the bay, we see the ruins of a previous stronghold with battles still raging between Night Elves and Naga. We can see a Hunter's Hall and other towers and structures that are clearly damaged. What happened was the Naga attacked this after the Cataclysm and took it down, which is why Feathermoon Stronghold on the shore is so fortified, to prevent this from happening again. If we travel up and down the coastline, you will find that Feathermoon Stronghold is the only passage to the sea. Everywhere else is blocked off by tall mountain ranges, meaning this is a major chokehold for sea-based supplies getting into and out of the region. Now we head back up the path from Feathermoon Stronghold and start making our way towards one of the biggest structures in Feralas. But first we cross over Stonemaul Hold, a horde town in Feralas. There's a mix of horde allied ogres and orcs dwelling at this fortification that's built around a cave coming out of the side of a hill. While these ogres are friendly to the horde, they are not friendly to the alliance, but they also are not friendly to the ogres that took over our next stop, Dire Maul. Dire Maul, once known as Eldra Thalas, was a massive city. The city was populated by a ton of Shendralar, very, very powerful mages. And 12,000 years ago, it was a blissful, highborn city. The stone, reinforced with arcane magic, has stood strong since the Sundering. And speaking of the Sundering, the elves of Eldra Thalas casted a powerful spell to help defend their city against the Sundering, which is how it survived. But as time went on, things got a little bit more chaotic. A lot of the mages were experimenting with demons, causing some bad demon juju going on. And eventually the horde showed up and wiped them out, leaving the city to fall to ruin and become populated by ogres, overgrown nature, spirits of fallen elves, and all sorts of other horrors. So now let's enter and see what's going on in here. Through the large gateway, we follow some grand hallways and make it eventually to the center plaza. There are ogres everywhere, with fires burning, guarding their new home, very comfily set up, clearly. Large cloth covers hang from the rooftops, torn to shreds. A long coliseum right in the middle of this plaza, which is used for gladiator games that the ogres run. There are statues dotting the area of various elven mages and rangers. And from this main plaza, there are 3 wings that the city splits into, but exploring those is for a different day. If we head way south from here, we can see the ruins of Isildion. These are another set of ruins, clearly infested by ogres, but these were not spared from the Sundering like Eldra Thalas was. If you look at these ruins though, you'll see some really cool structures. You'll see what looks like a temple of Elune potentially, or some other kind of palace at some point. And if you follow the ruins as they dot up north, you can see they connect to the ruins of Eldra Thalas, which implies to me that at one point the city extended so far down this valley that it took up the whole valley, potentially even the whole region, was just one massive city leading to Eldra Thalas. Throughout this valley otherwise, there are a number of wolves, yetis, treants, bears, and even a wisp or two can be seen, and as we head up back towards the road, we can come across the Tower of Astulin, an elven mage tower and a small alliance camp. This was set up by the highborn mages once they are allowed to come back and rejoin the Night Elves. From here, if we head east from the ruins of Isildion, we can find the Dark Mist ruins. But rather than being overrun by ogres like most of the other ruins in this zone, these are populated by highborn spirits and a dead demonic aura hangs over the area. This again was another little city affiliated with the Shendralar, the powerful mages that had a strong footing throughout ancient Feralas. As they dabbled with demonic magic, they were eventually corrupted by it, which leads us to one story from these ruins, the story of Verinius and Sinceria. So as the Shendralar were experimenting with demonic magics, a lot of them didn't really like this and they wanted to leave the city, Verinius being one of them. He wanted to leave the city of Dark Mist, but he was in love with the mage Sinceria too much to leave. But right as he was about to go, she transformed into a succubus from her demonic experimentation and forced him to transform into a demon. So as revenge, he locked her away until some adventurers were able to help and kill Verinius, which freed Sinceria. A true love story. Continuing directly south from here, we find the Steam Pools, an exotic goblin resort. Here, many peoples of Azeroth put aside their differences of Horde, Alliance, or Neutral, and just get some time to relax at the hot springs. surely getting nickeled and dimed the whole time by the goblins. But let's fly back into the main area of Feralas and let's head towards the Writhing Deep. At the Writhing Deep, we can see the clear signs of the infestation that haunts the desert of Silithus to the south. Giant Silithid tunnels and hives and bugs scattered all over the area, breaching the borders of Silithus into Feralas. In the past, these bugs wanted to own everything, so this isn't a surprise that they're starting to climb up in here or wherever they can get to. Continuing north from the bugs, we can pass over some Gnoll camps, another hostile faction in Feralas. And the east side of Feralas is the more horde-dominated side of Feralas, with Camp Mojachi as the main town populated by Tauren. It's nestled between two waterfalls with a river flowing through the middle and into the Wildwind Lake. It is a fantastic staging point for Horde venturing further into the rainforest. The camp is also host to a number of refugees that unfortunately lost their homes when Thousand Needles flooded, and they're looking for refuge from the destruction, causing a population issue. One of the main adversaries of the Tauren living here are the Grim Totem tribe. They are a faction of evil Tauren who want to wipe out everything that isn't a Tauren. Usually, they want to kill everything in sight, Alliance, Horde, even other Tauren. This renegade faction will attack them all, and we can find camps of them to the north. All along the mountain range here, camps dot the area, ready to lead raids on both the Alliance and the Horde. If we continue along this mountain range and head a little bit more east, we can find another major highborn structure, the Laris Pavilion. Below it lies a secret passage to and from Dire Maul, which the highborn mage Toradin escaped from, and he now dwells here. The pavilion is also surrounded by dryads, corrupted by the Emerald Nightmare, who will attack anyone on sight. But one last jump into the mountains and we find the Gorduni Outpost, another major hub of ogre activity. This area was once lush and green, just like the rest of Feralas, but because of the ogre's presence, it's become dead and brown. And finally, heading back towards the road and east, we arrive at the end of our journey. Following the road, we can find some mountains resembling the Needles of Thousand Needles, showing a clear transition between the two regions. And finally, on the border of the sea that is now Thousand Needles, Night Elves and Grim Totem Tauren are locked in combat at New Thalinar. At its height, these lands were likely flooded with Highborn and their settlements. We can see Eldrath extending far beyond its borders in clear ways, potentially making this whole zone one massive city. But today, the ogres have taken their place and are stomping on these ruins. So let's take a bit of a deeper look at these ogres, as they are a major faction shaking up how this forest runs. They aren't native to these forests, and they came with the Horde from Draenor. There's two major clans that live here. The Stonemaul are allied with the Horde, and the Gorduni, who are corrupted by the magics of Cho'Gall. A large portion of the southern and eastern parts of Feralas are populated by these Golduni ogres, who are working to deforest and build up camps. Anywhere there's highborn ruins, there are likely ogres dwelling in the free-to-claim structures. This causes the native creatures such as Yetis and Gnolls to have to relocate, which causes fighting between the natives that once had space between themselves. These natives eventually will team up to fight off ogres when the ogres get too much. So with multiple factions, neutral, alliance, horde, wanting to eliminate them, the question is, how long can they really hold on to their territory? Only time will tell. The rainforests of Feralas contain a ton more mysteries and stories, so if there's anything you think I missed or I got wrong, or if you have a request for a future zone, drop a comment down below. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this journey, please drop a like to let me know. And if you want to see future videos from me, subscribe so you can see them. Thank you for watching and safe travels.